get liberal here. If we can't hang on to that. I mean, that'll be almost a half win. We'll see. We will see. Oh my goodness. They sent somebody with a camera? That's why I wore my coat and tie. No, not really. That's right. Live off of lobsters. Move to Belize.
Or me.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot warmer in Belize. Okay. Oh, God. Wait a minute. Yeah. She should be. I think I opened the wrong minutes. It was last minutes. Is this this is the 25th, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
He
got here a few minutes ago.
Good evening, and welcome to Tuesday, October 25th. Sorry, I'll see if we can get this. Are we at a good volume now? Or are we going to? Okay. City Commission meeting for Tuesday, October 25th. That is really loud. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. Not too loud. First of all, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and then as the first order of business, I would like to ask for a motion to excuse Commissioner Barnes, who has another obligation this evening.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or objection? Thank you. Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Commissioner Shad? Mayor Anderson?
Yes. So Commissioner Barnes is excused from the meeting. Item number 2 is the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to ask Commissioner Ashbrook, would you mind asking our invocation this evening?
Sure.
Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we thank you. We thank you for this day and this opportunity. We thank you that you bless us in spite of how we act and behave. We thank you that you have offered us the salvation that you have and your grace and mercy. We pray for those who, not only here in our community, but around the world, stand in the gap tonight to protect us, whether they be first responders or our military, who take it upon themselves each and every day to see that we're safe. And we pray for them and their families and hold them up to you tonight. We thank you for being here with us tonight to offer us wisdom and guidance and discernment as we make decisions. We pray that they would be decisions that you would be pleased with, and that they would show that we have a city that we need to be proud of. We thank you again for all that you've given us, for we pray in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Item number 3 is the mayor's report. I'll see if I can do this way, not yell at you. Had a kind of a busy couple of weeks. This past Saturday, I was privileged to attend the gala fundraiser for the Lynn Haven St. Andrews Center. I was told they raised, I believe, over $50,000 for the center, and it was a lovely evening with the Embers Band from Myrtle Beach out at the Bay Point Sheraton. I also participated in a webinar with representatives from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. I spent a couple of hours on the phone with a group of people asking questions about a grant that I'm going to be applying for, and I've got the promises of a couple of construction and engineering people to help me to make sure I fill it out properly. But There's over $400,000 to be distributed between 8 communities on the coast for coastal rehabilitation and storm preparation. So I think that's a very worthy application. It'll be due on December 9th. I met with our city attorney, Rob Jackson, and discussed possibilities for how to do the fundraising details for the proposed splash pad if we should approve that tonight. And I really appreciated all of his help. And also, we talked about the ordinance that he's working on to bring us closer with the ordinance with the Bay County Commission and their driver for hire policies. And I had the privilege of attending the Bay County League of Cities meeting and speaking with representatives from all these cities. And at this point, Parker and Callaway both seem to be leaning in our direction. I spoke with Callaway today that they're going to allow the Uber service in their city with the same sort of permitting that we are. So Panama City had Uber on their agenda this morning, and from the first reports that we've had from the city manager, they seem to be moving maybe in the same direction. So maybe very soon we're going to have that alternative transportation all across Bay County. So I'm very happy with the progress that it's making. And also met with Chris Forehand of Panhandle Engineering this week to talk about the conceptual design for a possible splash pad. Panhandle Engineering has stepped forward and offered to do all engineering gratis or free of charge for a splash pad for the children. So I was very grateful about that. And I also visited 2 splash pads this week, one on MKL and one at the beach, just to look at those. And then I was also a guest speaker at the P-Flag Film Festival this past weekend, Friday, October 21st, which is, it was the first annual film festival in Panama City or Bay County. That organization is parents, friends, and family of gay and lesbian citizens of our county, and it was to bring about education and awareness and to stop hate crime and prejudice against these members of our community. So it was a wonderful and well-attended event, and I was privileged to be invited. So that's the end of the mayor's report. Commissioner Shad, did you have a report this evening?
Well, I too visited attended the fundraising gala out at the Sheraton, which was a very, very nice affair. You know, the St. Andrew Bay Center is a real community asset for us. It's housed in our city, but it's an asset for the whole county. And if you've never been there and you're not familiar with what they do, you ought to go by sometimes on Carolina Avenue and just stop by and see what they do. They work with, I guess you'd best call it, both physically and mentally challenged people. And some of them are young, and some of them are in their teens, some of them are in their 20s. They help teach them how to do things so that they can begin the process of beginning to earn money on their own and live on their own. And it's just a fantastic job that they do. I too met with the city attorney and the civil engineers to ask 1,000,001 questions about the splash park from a technical standpoint and a legal standpoint on the raising of the funds. It was good meetings. I learned a lot. It satisfied a lot of the questions that I had. I would like to caution everybody, we're entering the holiday season. It starts off with Halloween, and then you're going to get into Thanksgiving and Christmas. During the Halloween season is one of the most dangerous periods in this country as far as accidents go. So please just be extra careful when you're out on the road during the holiday season. Unfortunately, we still have a lot of people that like to take a dip every now and then, and sometimes they dip too much. So be extra cautious, particularly on Halloween. You got a lot of little kids running around. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Ashbrook?
I don't have anything to add to that or any other report.
Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, as mentioned before, I did go ahead and run the 5K out at Kensaw Park. They had a really good turnout for cancer awareness. A lot of Jeeps out there, a lot of activity, so it was good to see that out there. Also was very involved this week with research and conversations on the Splash Park. But also this afternoon had a interesting conversation with with some folks that want to try to do cricket. So I met with Maria and staff out there at the sports complex. They're wanting to maybe utilize some area out there for cricket. So I don't think either one of us knew what we were getting into, but we survived, and now Miss Maria has a little work to do, of course, but it was very interesting to hear all about that. So I'm sure we'll hear more about that in the future. But that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 5 is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I wanted to mention was, again, we do have the holiday season coming up. Typically, the Lynn Haven Commission only has one meeting November and December because the second Tuesday falls on top of Thanksgiving and then Christmas. But I will take a look at what agenda items we have, and if it dictates a second meeting, I'll reserve the right, and hopefully you guys can work with me, and we'll figure out another day to have it if the agenda dictates having a meeting. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Item number 6 is our city attorney's report.
We're having it Wednesday.
If you take a look at the packet, this is about a situation that's on 2652 Peyton Place. The short version of it is it's a house that was built slightly out of compliance with the code. If you look at the survey that's in the packet, you can see where the house is built within 4 inches of the setback line, or 4 inches within the setback line. Yeah, and so we're 4 inches out of compliance, but that makes it ineligible to get a building permit and a CO. So the builder has, once they discovered the error, stopped building, and they want to know how to proceed. The lawyer representing him is Mitch Deaver. He has contacted the neighbors and gotten no objection from them, that there's no objection to if they continue with the construction. And as we try to track down the mistake, basically the surveyor has admitted that he misplaced the poles initially, and that's why it's a little out of compliance. So at this point, the builder also said that it's going to cost them about $40,000 to tear it down and rebuild it in the right spot, 4 inches off, because they already have the framing in up to the second floor. So at this point, the commission has just a couple of options. One is you guys could authorize a building permit to be issued and a CO if everything else is compliance with the construction from here on out. It would be a non-conforming use, so if the house was destroyed for some reason in the future, they'd have to rebuild it back in accordance with the original, not the original plan, but the new plan inside the 4 inches. Or you could make them tear it down and do it all over again. And so those are really the two options the commission has. It's not technically a variance. We looked at the variance process, but this doesn't really qualify for a variance because it's a mistake more than it is a condition on the ground. And so that's ready for action whenever y'all are, if you want to discuss it or however you want to proceed.
And this information's been presented by the city attorney regarding this property. Is there a motion from one of the commissioners?
I move that we consider allowing them to proceed and build. And I have a question, but I'll wait for a second.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions now from the board?
Yeah, I just noticed here on the survey, the metal storm drain. Is that in any way impacted by, I'm presuming that's our ability to get to it and maintain it? There's a metal storm drain on the side of this property. I presume it is on a city easement. And I was just wondering if this has an impact in any way, shape, or form on the city's ability to get to and maintain that drainage pipe.
The representative for the house owner, or the builder, isn't here tonight, but just looking at the survey, I mean, the house, if you look at where the house is constructed, it's just off to the right-hand side of the survey, slightly about 4 inches, so it doesn't look like it would impede that storm drain at all. I mean, Public Works would be better to address that.
The 4 inches is probably not of dire consequence as far as getting equipment in there if that has to be pulled and replaced, but just wanted to be certain. Okay.
Rock, could I just ask one question? Why would it be a non-conforming use if it was a surveyor error?
Because in order for it to be a conforming use, you'd have to get a variance, basically go through the variance process. But if it's a surveyor error, I mean, it's basically a mistake of fact. And I've actually talked with the lawyer about this, is that, you know, he's a little at risk at this situation because if, you know, there's a mortgage on the property, he tries to sell the property. We've had banks before come in and ask if the use is permitted or not, and if it complies with the codes. And technically this wouldn't, I mean, because it wouldn't, but it would be permitted to be there, and they're concerned about rebuilding is what they're concerned about. Can the house be rebuilt?
So this could be like a cloud on the title when they go to sell?
You know, I don't know if it's a cloud on the title. It depends on the lender themselves and what they're looking for. Some lenders are very concerned about that, especially in light of the new banking regulations, and some have not been. You know, I don't think they're required to disclose this at all, but it would be something that if the lender asked about it, that's something that they have to, you know, and I've discussed this with the lawyer, and this is the option that they want.
But in either case, if we take this action, we won't become complicit, or?
No, if we take this action, the city will basically be giving permission for the house to continue to be built, and it can stand there as long as that house stands. If for some reason the house gets destroyed by more than 50%, by fire or hurricane or something, then they're going to have to build it in compliance. But if it's just damaged or remodeled, it'll be able to rebuild within exactly how as it is now.
Okay.
And Mayor, if I may, any kind of precedence on this? You think this is setting any kind of, I mean, it's kind of a really odd situation.
It's a very odd situation, and cities have struggled, and I apologize for bringing this to you at the last minute like this, but the builder is very anxious about trying to get moving building again, and you could certainly delay it if you choose. You know, it is an unusual situation, and in these type of situations, the courts have really done both. I mean, sometimes if the city has said tear it out, they've made the people tear it out, and sometimes if the city is, if everyone agrees that it's a mistake, then they'll let everything proceed.
But I'm more concerned with the future and future mistakes that are not necessarily mistakes. Do you think our action tonight would set any kind of precedence for the future, that we would be more obligated to agree to those?
I think in light of the circumstances that we've done, the city has done its due diligence. We know how much it would cost to reconstruct this. We know the amount of the error. So I think that it would be confined to basically the facts that we have here. And I don't think it would have any kind of precedential value.
Okay.
If someone came in with a 4-inch mistake, exactly like
before,
before,
it might be 6 next time is what I'm saying.
Yeah. But this really is an equitable situation. You're trying to balance the equities. The city has the right to make this to make them redo it, but the cost to the builder will be $40,000 approximately, and a 4-inch error, is that worth making them do that when it wasn't a city mistake and it wasn't the builder's mistake? It was a surveyor mistake.
I would just like to weigh in and say that, you know, sometimes, you know, that government and regulations can get in the way of common sense, and that this appears to be, if it's 4 inches and it doesn't affect anything else on the property, such as Commissioner Ashbrook mentioned, the drain, you know, I think that, you know, I would think that we would be really doing the wrong thing to cause a builder to have to tear down a structure that's this far along over a 4-inch legitimate mistake. I think that would be a real mistake of ours to do that. So that's just mine. Any other questions or discussion? Anyone from the public? Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Then Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. So the motion stands approved.
And that's my report, Mayor.
Thank you very much. The next items on the agenda are items 7 through 10, which are the consent agenda. What I will do is read those items all together, and then ask for a motion and a second from the board. And then if there's discussion from the board, and then if you have 1 or 2 or more items from the public that you would like to discuss or ask questions, you'll be given that opportunity. So the consent agenda is number 7, minutes from the October 11th regular meeting. to ratify the reappointment of Baron Gianchi to the General Employees Pension Board of Trustees, the reappointment of Garland Woodard to the General Employees Pension. Is there another one of the portable microphones available that I could use? I feel like I'm just making a lot of noise with this. I'd like to change over if you don't mind. Oh, that's it? Never mind, I'll just keep this one. That's okay.
It's just Barney. Thank you. Much better, thank you. Item number 8, to ratify the reappointment of Baron Gianchi to the General Employees Pension Board of Trustees. Item number 9, the reappointment of Garland Woodard to the General Employees Pension Board of Trustees. And item number 10, approve the task order to Panhandle Engineering in the amount of $32,400 for engineering services on the CIPP or SIP Sewer Rehabilitation Program Phase 2. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
And is there a second?
And I'll second.
So there's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion from the board regarding these 4 items? There appears to be none. Are any questions or discussion from the public regarding these items? There appears to be none. So Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so the consent agenda is approved. Moving to item number 11, which is old business. This is discussion and possible action regarding approval of special events. And in this case, we had, just to sort of rehash, earlier in the year, we had set a new schedule of some added events, and one of those was to be a spring festival, which we did not name at the time. We had talked about an azalea festival, some other items. Yesterday at the commission workshop, we tossed around a few ideas for names. And so if there is a motion for how to proceed with the spring event from the board.
Also move.
Did you want to make a motion as to what the name would be, Commissioner Shad?
Well, yeah, what are we hunting for?
In yesterday's meeting, we talked about the possibility of naming the spring festival the
Right.
Jazz and Blues Fest.
Right.
So would we make a motion to title it, or we would just call it a spring festival, I guess is what I'm saying in your motion. How would you like to proceed?
Okay. I'll make the motion that we title it the Spring Festival. Well, we title it the Lynn Haven Spring Festival.
Okay, there's been a motion that we title this the Lynn Haven Spring Festival. Is there a second for this motion?
Can we add family in there by any chance? Like spring family, I don't know. I guess I didn't understand clearly, I guess, yesterday. I apologize that we were actually naming it. I must have missed that yesterday, so.
Well, we were
But either
trying
way,
to-
I'm
we-
okay.
we were-
It doesn't
My
matter.
understanding yesterday was that we were trying to, the last discussion, we didn't want to do an azalea trail because the
Right.
commission felt we were impeding upon
Right.
another city.
Right.
And so one of the commissioners, and Commissioner Shad, had spoken that he would like to see perhaps a jazz and blues festival, and so I kind of thought that's where we went yesterday in the discussion, but if we want to just leave it, whatever we would like to call it, it's March 18th, so.
To me, the door is still open on what you do on that day. We
Okay.
have a lot of options, and we've got a lot of time between now and then to come up with it. We had on our list the jazz and blues. We had art, school jazz bands. We had the Kinsel Park for a possible wine tasting and craft beers. So I think it's really up to our staff to work out and say, this makes the most sense to do
Perfect.
on that particular day. And, we might want to do multiple things. Have stuff out at Kinsel Park and stuff out at the
I certainly
Park here.
agree. I agree. Commissioner Friend?
Well, I'll just second it as the motion is on the floor.
Okay, so there's been a motion that we title the March 18th event, am I correct, in the Lynn Haven Spring Festival, Commissioner Shad?
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a second. Any further discussion from the board? Questions? Any input from the public? Yes.
The only problem I see with the spring...
Would you state your name and
Oh,
address
Chris
first?
Callahan, live in Lynn Haven. The only thing I see with the Spring Festival is it starts getting into the idea of back in the Panama City when they had the Spring Festival of the Arts, which was every March also, and that's sort of encroaching back onto them if they decide to reinvent that. So I would be more inclined to go with something like blues and jazz or arts festival or something that's completely different than anybody else is doing in town. Just an input.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Virgil DeFell, 1009 Colorado Avenue, Lynn Haven. The special events, a question, Mayor, if circumstances changed, would it have to come back before the commission, yourself, for, I'm a believer in the law of unintended consequences. Some of us know about Murphy's Law, but I go by the law of unintended consequences. So something might change, and you and others, does it have to come back before the board before an approved special event could be postponed or even canceled?
It would have to come back because it's already, the date is set for March the 18th, and so for Leisure Services Department and staff to have time to proceed. The city attorney can correct me. I think that as far as what Commissioner Shad just said, I think we can add, or subtract activities from the festival as need be without having to come before the board. I'm not really sure where you were going with your question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I support Commissioner Shad and Mayor Margot in this, that I believe it should just be called the Spring Festival because, this year we want to do jazz and blues. Next year we may want to do country. Another year we might want to do something else, local artists or local musicians or whatever. And it's just a general, the Lynn Haven Spring Festival, it just makes sense to me, and that way it doesn't have to come before the board again if you want to change the kind of music or events that are there.
Okay, thank
Arlene
you.
Harrison, 904 Michigan Avenue. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I thought I had asked you that. I was remiss. Does anyone else have a comment or a question from the public? Okay, at this time, there appears to be no more questions or comments. So, Mr. Schubert, if you would please call the roll for this motion to pass.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
No.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. That's 3. The motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to new business, discussion and possible action regarding the proposed splash park. This is sort of something that I brought to the table. So with due respect, Commissioner Ashbrook, may I pass the gavel to you so that I may make a proposal, or a motion, rather.
Sure.
Thank you. The motion that I would like to make regarding a splash pad, we discussed it yesterday in the workshop, but before I make the motion, I just wanted to make the comment. When I first posted this on Facebook and began to talk with members of the community, we had a very tragic accident in our community. A very dear friend of mine, a colleague of mine, and a friend and colleague of many of you, Ray Wishart, was tragically killed in a cycling accident. I had many students to step forward and friends and colleagues and say that they thought, well, since you're interested in doing this splash pad, we think it'd be a really great thing to name it after Ray Wishart because he had so much impact on children. And so I immediately said I thought it was a good idea too. However, in the last few weeks, some of his colleagues at Mosley High School, as well as his wife, Diane Wishart, contacted me, and they asked if we would not name the splash pad because they're hoping that in the future, possibly a portion of Rails to Trails or maybe another area in the city that would be designated for cycling could be named after Mr. Wishart because he was such an avid cyclist. And so, of course, we will certainly go by those wishes, and at this time it'll just be a splash pad at Kensall Park. We can certainly investigate another name later. But this is the motion. I would like to make a motion that, and it's pretty long, but I want to make sure it's all there. I would like to make a motion that the Commission grant permission to Margot Anderson to begin a mayor's fundraising project to privately raise funds to construct a splash pad at Bill Kensall Park with the understanding that the fundraising timeline will be approximately 12 months and that funds will be deposited in a City of Lynn Haven bank account established solely for the purpose of collecting the splash pad donations. That funds may also be collected through an online service such as PayPal, which will also be connected to the city bank account. That the cost of engineering services will be donated by Panhandle Engineering. That an opportunity for input as to the final theme and design of the splash pad will be given to Lynn Haven residents, in particular children of Lynn Haven Elementary School, once the $250,000 goal has been met, and that once completed, the splash pad will belong to the City of Lynn Haven. In the unlikely event that sufficient funds are not raised to construct this pilot splash pad, funds will be returned to the contributors. That is my motion.
Madam Mayor, as the sitting chair of the commission, you can't make the motion.
That's why I passed my gavel to Commissioner Ashbrook.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that part.
No
Okay.
problem.
Understand. I'll second your motion.
Thank you very much. Are there questions? Oh, I'm sorry, you have to do that.
Okay, excuse me. So, we do have a second to the motion?
Yes.
Okay. I'll ask, are there questions from the commission?
I guess I'll use the
Questions or
opportunity.
discussions right now?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I mean, I'm asking for questions from the
Thank-
commission, then we'll go to the public.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just use the opportunity for those that were not in the workshop yesterday, just to share that, you know, I greatly respect the passion of the mayor and her ambition to go out and raise the funds for the Splash Park. Splash Park has been on my list for many years, and I actually didn't think about doing a fundraiser. I was trying to go through the budget process, and the money's not been there. I've done a little research. I haven't done a lot of research. We came at odds yesterday with a couple of different things. I did talk with the city attorney on raising the funds. I really wasn't comfortable with the city raising the funds, but I got past that with the advice and opinion of our city attorney. But I just can't, unfortunately, I just don't see Kensall Park as being utilized enough out there. So my concern is, even if we raise the funds, that we still have the upkeep. We came at odds on staffing it. My understanding is you have to have staff regardless if they're standing water or not. So the overhead and for the long term for the residents of Lynn Haven, I just am concerned that it would get underutilized. So I just wanted to share that with the public here tonight, since most of you were not there at the workshop yesterday. Thank you, sir.
Is there any other discussion from the commission?
Yes, and I can appreciate your concerns, sir. I guess I look at it as an opportunity to say a community consists not only of the people that live here, it's our business people that live here too. And I have been very successful over the years on the concerts in the park. That's funded by donations from the business people. They're glad to do it because they have a business here. And they want this city to grow and to be a nice city. I can't see much difference in asking the public or the businesses, if we want to do something, to be a partner with us in some of these things. Now, I can appreciate Mr. Friend's concern about the park being underutilized. Well, all that says is we need to do things out there to attract more people to use it. And you put a splash park out there, you know, that's going to lead to more people coming out there. There's another area that I would like to see in the future of saying, gee, we got a lot of little kids running around that use this park, the splash park. Well, why don't we build some little mini ball fields or something for them? Or, you know, anything out there, a kid that's not in school yet, but they're active and they need some way to burn their energy off and to play. They can get up their own teams. Well, I think we need to look at providing them the opportunities to do this. And I think if we do that, we will then encourage them and there will be more use out there. Now, are there any guarantees? No, there's no guarantees in life about anything except we're going to die one day. But I think we need to sometimes think outside the box. And if we can call upon our business partners in the community to help get some things done. Now, let's go to the extreme and say, well, what if it flops? And after you use it 6 months or so, nobody's coming out there to use it. Well, it's not going to be totally wasted space. For one thing, you're going to have a pavilion that will be built out there, 2 of them, that could be used for other things. So, to me, there's more pluses than minuses to do it. And, every now and then I think we need to stick our neck out a little bit and kind of try some new things. So, I'm willing to support it. Is it a gamble? No, I don't consider it to be a gamble. Is it something that might be more challenging? Yes. But I think the park will continue to grow if we put more things out there for families to use. And I get concerned about our parks being underutilized. You look right across the street, that's an underutilized park too. But we have special events out there, and hopefully as time goes on, we'll do more things so that that park will be used. And splash parks are very, very popular with very young children and their families. So.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on the board? Now we'll have discussion from the public. Would you come up and identify yourself? Yes, Mr. DeFell. You can put your hand down and come to the podium.
Here.
Okay.
Excuse me, Virgil DeFell, 1009 Colorado Avenue, Lynn Haven, Florida. For Commissioner Shad and Commissioner Friend and Mayor and everyone here, and I have 7 grandchildren. They live in another state, but I have a lot of friends and family and all ages, you will name. And although I've got my hearing aids in, the acoustics are still difficult. But I want to go on, and Mayor, you changed your microphone there. Appreciate that. The acoustics people. My concern, having my career in education for about 30 years, whether it be in Florida or Virginia, I don't know what the liability, how it would be covered. I read your remarks in the Lynn Haven Ledger, Mayor, and so forth. I'm concerned about the liability. I'm concerned about the safety of the children. Even as recently as 2 weeks ago, I was in charge of an event downtown at Oaks by the Bay. You cannot stop adults who have children elementary age, let's say, or thereabouts, from bringing children to a splash park as envisioned and leaving. And then who's in charge of those children? Who's watching out for their safety? So if we have a splash park, we have, in my opinion, we must have the financial provisions to have an adult, whether it be a lifeguard or whatever, someone in authority, to protect the safety of the children and the liability that's likely to occur for the city of Lynn Haven. That's my major concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeFell. Yes, you want to come up and give us your address and speak your piece?
My name is Judy Tinder.
Yes.
Address is 504 Virginia Avenue, Lynn Haven, and I'm one of the owners of Victoria's Last Bite Cafe. And I just want to let the commission know that we totally support the splash park. We will certainly support it financially. We've also already been talking about ways that we can create a consistent donation, like maybe match the cost every time a child eats at our restaurant and donate that to the situation, whatever it takes. But we are fully behind this. And in what Virgil just said, I have to kind of agree and disagree with Virgil. Bad parenting happens everywhere. So there are parents who would take their kids down to Porter Park maybe and leave them alone. I think a splash park is much safer than that. So We're totally behind it. We would encourage all of our friends who own businesses to support it and to ongoing, not just that, but I think there's plenty of things to do there. Like you said, we can create more things to happen there. Fireworks, since the day I moved here, that's a big deal. Everybody goes down there. They have vendors. They sell things. And I think we could do things down there that would create a lot more interest. But the splash park is definitely a good idea, in my opinion. Okay? Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yes. Leon, come on up. Excuse me.
Leon Miller, 1508 Mississippi Avenue. Let me say, there have been a splash park at the Glenwood Recreation Center for 2 or 3 years. I don't recall an incident down there at the center. It's been well supervised by the center. Early childhood service used the splash park for their kids. We got a lot of kids around here in this community. And it's about time for us to say, let's get the kids off the corners and give them something to do, instead of getting in trouble with the black and white and the green and white police cars. We're all going to have excuses about this splash park, but if it's well supervised, it'll go over. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You would like to address the commission?
Arlene Harrison, 904 Michigan Avenue. I thought of a lot of the same things that Commissioner Shad thought of. Is one of the first thoughts I had. Now, when a splash park came up before in Sheffield Park, I was very much against it. Right there, I felt like the location was poor. But Kensaw Park is wide open. There's nothing to do there except let kids run around, which they do, fly kites, and they do things like that out there, kick a ball around. But to give them a chance to have the splash park, I think it would be a wonderful use of that space, and it would give parents a chance to, something to do with the kids, that the kids can have fun with, and I support it 100%.
Yes, sir.
Chris Callahan, 1101 Rhode Island. Commissioner Shad, I have to applaud you very much. I think you're right on the right track of where Lynn Haven needs to go. I've lived here 31 years, and it has been my experience, if I want to do anything in Lynn Haven, I go downtown. Downtown is Panama City. I don't want to go downtown anymore. I want to come here. And I think that's what all of you need to start thinking about, is that we need Lynn Haven to be the community. We need to be uptown here, not downtown there. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the commission on this particular subject? Seeing none, I presume it's time that we call the question. Motion's on the floor.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
No.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
No.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Motion fails for lack of a majority. Excuse me?
The motion did not carry. Did you hear me okay, Mr. DeFell? I would express my extreme disappointment that the motion did not carry, and I'm very disappointed, especially because of the fact that it was my idea, so I'm personally invested in it. I've spent my whole life working with education, with children. It's not that different for me to want to fundraise as a mayor than it was to fundraise for children in schools. We have 60% of our children at Lynn Haven Elementary School on free and reduced lunch. They don't all have parents that are able to take them out to the leisure services complex. They ride their little bikes. I watch them playing in muddy ditches. I watch them going to the bay unsupervised with no one to watch them. And this was an opportunity, wasn't going to cost anybody anything except me to go out and do the fundraising. And I just have to say in a loud, booming voice that, gentlemen, I am very, very, very disappointed in this decision. And now I'll move on to the next item.
Mayor, could I make a comment?
You certainly may.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to comment and just say that, you know, I've had the utmost respect for your stepping out and wanting to do the fundraiser. My concern is not so much with the fundraising. I think we have an unbelievable community. I know the community will step up, support it. My concerns were the ongoing support and the overhead for the upkeep if it's going to be underutilized. I will make this promise to you and to the public tonight that I will continue to do homework on the placement of the splash park at Kensall Park and finalize true operating cost. Do we or do we not have to have staff out there? And again, because my concern is not having the splash park. I want the splash park. I originally just wanted it sports complex for use, utilization, and I just thought the operating cost overhead would be less. So I will commit that I will continue to work on it, and I will try to get better numbers for the operating cost so that I can try to come to a better decision on if it is underutilized at Kensall Park. And trust me, everyone, and Mayor, we do need more things at Kensall Park. We need to draw more attention down there. We even thought about the cricket opportunity being out there. You know, I support Kensall Park and want more things out there. I think one thing that we should entertain is doing the pavilion and or covering the playground as it is right now. It's got wear and tear on it from being out there. And I know it's not utilized perhaps because, as you mentioned yesterday, because it's hot. But I'll just end with this. I will continue to work on it. I'll try to finalize. The main thing is the overhead. Do we have to have staff out there? My understanding is we do. And then the operating cost for the upkeep and ongoing cost of it. Thank you, Mayor.
I would respectfully reply to that. You certainly are entitled to your opinion. But I would respectfully say that you've had 6 years if you want to do a fundraiser to do a splash park. I've only had a little more than a year, and I'm energized. We're at the end of the year. This was a perfect window when people are wanting to have tax deductions. It's Christmas. People are wanting to make contributions in honor of children and grandchildren. We've now missed one more wonderful opportunity because people, as Commissioner Shad said, are not willing to think outside the box and serve our children and do what our residents are asking us to do. The thing that really rings with me tonight is apparently everybody on this commission thought that I would be able to raise the $250,000 because you're concerned about liability and you're concerned about upkeep. And if one person is willing to go to that extreme and willing to get out and work to that extent to raise $250,000, I would think that same person would continue to work to make sure the park was upkept. And also, speaking of the playground equipment that's been built there long before I was there, no one thought about covering it to protect it. So that investment's going downhill. There's a concession stand that sits down there that's never used, that we could be making money to upkeep that playground. It's never thought about to be used. This was an opportunity, an engineering firm willing to offer us all of their expertise and put this in place. I've already had many, many business people tell me that they're willing to contribute, but they couldn't until this was approved tonight. So that's all I have to say. If you want to say something else, you may, but I cannot express with any less dignity, I guess I don't want to put it in there, but I cannot express my complete dismay. The reason I ran for mayor was to try to do wonderful things and to try to push forward ideas that I thought had been left behind and to try to serve the community, especially our children. Where's the liability when one of our children drown in a ditch because that's where they have to play? Who's going to be responsible for that? I've never, ever been this disappointed over a decision by this commission. I thought I've had some disappointing moments, but this was it. I'm done unless somebody else wants to say something else. Item number 13, the first reading of Ordinance 1024, Vehicles for Hire.
Ordinance number 1024, an ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending Chapter 66 of the Lynn Haven Code of Ordinances relating to traffic and motor vehicles, creating a permitting process for vehicles for hire, defining the terms vehicle for hire, network company, and network vehicle, adopting the Bay County Board of County Commissioners permitting process for vehicles for hire with a separate category for network vehicles, providing for enforcement, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing for an immediately effective date.
Thank you. This is a first reading of this ordinance, and so there is no action needed unless someone has a question or would like to ask the attorney a question. Item number 14. The first reading of ordinance 1025, right-of-way abandonment, Cameron's Crossing, Phase 2.
An ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, providing for the vacation and abandonment of a certain 40-foot platted right-of-way as shown on the plat of St. Andrews Bay Development Company's subdivision of Section 14, Township 3, South, Range 14 West, Bay County, Florida, which lies within the city limits, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing for an immediately effective date.
Thank you. This is the first reading which requires no action unless there is a question or discussion from the board. There appears to be none. Item number 15. Item number 15, Resolution 2016-10-667, the 1/2 cent infrastructure sales surtax.
A resolution of the Lynn Haven City Commission supporting the Bay County 1/2 cent local government infrastructure sales surtax, otherwise known as surtax.
Is there a motion for this resolution from the board?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for this resolution. Are there any questions or comments from the board regarding the resolution? Are there any questions or comments from the public? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Virtual Felton on Colorado. Mayor, about 4 years ago, I think it was, statistically, Panama City, now I separate the beach from the other cities, in my thinking. And I've been here 26 years and was coming here starting in 1951 when family had moved here. However, the statistics showed for a matter of years that the city of Panama City, their growth was basically flat, whereas Lynn Haven's growth during that same period had increased by 20-30% almost. And I still see that trend happening, though we may disagree on many things, but we can agree to be amicable, respectful when we disagree. And I personally would be glad, if I'm still living here, to pay the 1/2 cent to improve the infrastructure of Lynn Haven. I hope that will go before the public and whatever's necessary and be approved.
Thank you. Is there other discussion from the public or questions? There appears to be none. We've had a motion and a second for this resolution. Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so this resolution has passed. We're to the final item of the evening, public commentary. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak on any subject they wish. Yes, Mr. Miller?
I know at 1508 Mississippi Avenue, I have 3 little questions to ask, and most of them is going to be directed to the city manager. I don't know if you noticed, since the new pizza place come in business on 17th Street and 77 right there, and that's a trolley stop right there, that have caused a major concern to a lot of people when the trolley stop there. I wish you could look into it and see if the trolley stop can be moved a little bit further, because it's going to be a terrible wreck there. Especially when the individuals in the wheelchair are getting on and off the trolley. The other is that when the city, Gulf Power put up lights on the street, do the city have to pay them or they reimburse the city some kind of way?
You talking about in the city or by residences?
In the city.
Yeah, I guess specifically, are you like 77 or?
No, I'm talking about like 17th Street. It needs some lights on it now.
Yeah, that's something, in fact, I had a question this week. That's something that we can look into, but you generally call Gulf Power is the one that provides those.
Okay.
But if you need assistance, we're helping a citizen right now as the go-between.
Well, it's a good job down there, but it's dark down there.
Right.
And it needs some lights down there. The new kind of lights that they're putting out. My third question is did you ever get with the county traffic department concerning the delayed turn arrows on 17th Street and 77?
That's one of the several items I'm still waiting from DOT. That's a DOT issue, and I have followed up several times and will continue to do so.
Okay.
I wish I had a better response.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on any? Yes, ma'am.
I must say that I'm extremely disappointed in the lack of support for the splash pad, and especially I'm disappointed in Mr. Friend because gives the appearance and other things that he's spoken of how important family is, and for something for families to do together outside seems like a laudable cause. Now, you're all for rails to trails. I sure hope nobody slips and falls on the rails to trails. Is that a liability? I don't understand your objection, and I'm very disappointed in you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Yes.
First of all, Mayor and Commissioners, I'd like to commend our Code Enforcement Department. I live just north of 12th Street, and a home that was in foreclosure, and it took years for that to be resolved. But I'm very pleased to know that it was resolved, and now there will be improvements made to that property. The people making the improvements, I spoke with them recently, and I drove by earlier today and saw all the code enforcement things on, posted there. Also, I want to commend whoever does all that posting. It all comes back to the city manager as far as I'm concerned. So I'm just going to report how pleased I am that code enforcement is working, but I don't know about the other properties, but I know certainly about the one that was a few doors from myself. Secondly, I made a point today at about 5 p.m. of driving the 17th Street so-called ditch from Wyoming all the way, to the, that of course is the east 17th. There is something, the west 17th. I'm not speaking to that right now, but that was a major safety hazard. Many of us here, including Mr. Juliet Smith, who passed about a few months back, most of us know it as Doc's Tires, but that is something, the city addresses. So again, I have lived in Lynn Haven for all these years, never had even the glimmer of moving elsewhere, unless it be to move back to the north. So thank all of you that are doing your job. And lastly, I want to mention this, though, about our police department. Personally, I've seen improvements. I've seen changes. I've been here all these years. In fact, I called Chief David Messer a few months back to tell him how pleased I am with his leadership, which is contrary to what I read in the Lynn Haven Ledger, Mayor, of course. But I think that you were doing what the citizens asked you to do. I understand that. I remember when all that was going on, of course. You're going to have to go thereabouts. But I want to say that I personally am very pleased with the people who are still making, who are in the drop program, is that what it's called? The drop program, is that the name of it?
I'm not sure where you're going with it. There is a drop
There some people think that their salaries are too high. I personally think that all those people in that program, I have known them personally, have known for many years, and I think they're certainly entitled to that program and earning the salary we pay them, and I'm very glad to be able to support our Chief David Messer.
Mr. Goodfellow, if you can kind of wrap it up because your 3 minutes expired.
Well, I realize that, Mayor, and you are exercising your privilege as the mayor, and I appreciate that. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much, sir. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
We came tonight to support the splash park. I have a 7-month-old in front of me. I was so excited about the idea of a splash park, and I hope that whatever means and whatever research we need to do can be done in a timely manner. Because the words overhead and liability are absolutely killing local government. I spent 4 years living at the beach. I'm 28 years old, and there's a lot of people my age having children, and they're coming this way. Beach is a sad situation. It's going through some major changes, and a lot of people are moving into town. They feel safer over here, they're happier over here. There's many folks that live right around me that have small children, and by the time she's 3, she'd be at a splash park if the motion would have passed tonight, and we would have gone on with that. And so I'm disappointed in those that decided to not do that, and I appreciate your comments, Mr. Shad, that you said that we do need to stick our neck out and get some different ideas going, because there are a whole generation of folks my age with small children coming over here because this is the place to be. So I hope that you think about that tonight. Thank you, Mayor Margo.
Thank you very much.
George Hines, 1603 Rhode Island Avenue, Lynn Haven, Florida. I asked once about the commission, are you here to vote the citizens, or are you here to vote for yourself? Every one of you was elected and have to go for election again. You need to think about what you're doing, because you're not just voting for yourself, you're voting for the citizens. I believe we need to have a town hall meeting other than just a county commission meeting or city commission meeting. You have a town hall meeting and hear from the citizens what they want, and then vote in that vein and not just voting for ourselves. Because we're 50, 60, 70 years old, and some of us have kids, grandkids, great-grandkids. So don't vote for yourself, vote for the people, because the people will use whatever you put. If you don't give kids something to do, they're going to end up in trouble. And then 5 years from now, somebody's grandkids is going to be in trouble that could have been saved by a splash park. We need to think not for ourselves, but for our community. And the last thing I have to say is, you don't quit playing because you get old. You get old because you quit playing.
Does anyone else, if you were to refrain from applause, no matter how you feel, does anyone else have a comment you'd like to make before I adjourn tonight's meeting?
Jody Moore, 2129 Amherst Street. I just want to say, recently I've seen a lot of improvements in the town, and I just want to say thank you. I credit the leadership that we have now. There's actually things getting done. The ditch got covered over. I saw that on the news. I'm also excited to see there's a Christmas parade coming up, so we can see a parade in Lynn Haven and not be dying in the heat. That'll be nice. So again, I just want to thank the commission, and particularly you, Mayor, because I think you are a driving force in all of this, and I just want to say thank you. I actually would support the splash pad too. I think there would be a lot of children coming to that. It's kind of like that, if you build it, they will come kind of thing. It's a beautiful location. I really think in the summertime it would just be jumping, so I hope the board will consider and revisit this, please.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments this evening? I'd just like to close by thanking you all for attending tonight. I would like to just say one more time that I think the splash pad is a good idea, and you haven't heard the last of it. Have a great night. Meeting's adjourned.